Have you ever felt like the world of business is less like uh, a serene garden and more like a gladiatorial arena?
Definitely.
A constant, no holds barred battle for market share where every single move is about gaining an edge and, well, vanquishing rivals.
Sometimes does it feel different, more like a blank canvas.
Exactly. Waiting for that stroke of genius, right? A moment of pure creation to bring something entirely new into existence rather than just fighting over what's already there.
Yeah, that's the tension.
Today, we're plunging into one of the most fundamental and honestly fascinating debates in the world of strategy.
Hmm.
At its core, this debate asks, is the ultimate goal of strategy to dominate the existing landscape, to, vanquish your rivals in a fierce war for market share?
Or is it something else? Is it to make them utterly irrelevant by creating something so novel, so groundbreaking, that it opens up an entirely new world? A world where, competition simply doesn't exist, at least for a while.
Right. So we're embarking on a deep dive into two incredibly powerful yet fundamentally opposing philosophies. Ideas that have really shaped how businesses thrive or sometimes how they stumble and fail.
Yeah, two very different paths.
On one side, we'll explore strategy as war. This perspective draws heavily on those conflict-oriented frameworks. Thinkers like Michael Porter are key here.
Right, the classic competitive strategy view.
Yeah, where business is seen as basically a zero-sum game, a constant struggle where one company's gain often means another's loss. It's all about building these formidable defenses, launching strategic attacks, and ultimately defeating your competitors on the established battlefield. Like a game of chess, really, but played for keeps.
And then on the other side, we'll delve into strategy as creation. This vision is inspired by, well, the groundbreaking ideas of W. Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne, the minds behind Blue Ocean strategy.
Ah, the blue ocean idea.
Exactly. This perspective argues that true, enduring success isn't found in that bloody red ocean of head-to-head competition at all.
That's a powerful image, the red ocean.
It is, isn't it? Imagine that traditional market, like an ocean, just filled with sharks, your competitors all fighting over the same, maybe diminishing pool of prey. It turns the water red with their struggles. So Blue Ocean strategy suggests lasting success comes from avoiding that struggle entirely. It's about making the competition irrelevant, not by beating them at their own game, but by creating a brand new market space. A blue ocean, where you're the only one swimming, at least until others figure it out and try to follow.
Okay, so our mission today for you is to unpack these two powerful approaches. We're going to look at some compelling real-world examples that illustrate each philosophy in action. We'll try to dissect the specific tactics and, importantly, the mindsets involved.
Yeah, the underlying thinking is key.
We'll help you understand when each might be most effective in different business contexts, and maybe, just maybe, uncover how these seemingly opposing ideas might surprisingly intertwine or even necessitate each other in the long run.
What's particularly illuminating here, I think, is that while both paths offer clear routes to success, they operate from fundamentally different assumptions. Assumptions about competitive advantage, the role of rivalry, how value is even created for customers.
That's a great point. Different starting points entirely.
Exactly. We'll explore how companies have embodied both the ruthless warrior, fiercely defending their established turf, and the visionary creator, painting entirely new landscapes of opportunity. It's really a journey into the heart of what truly makes businesses win and how they, shape the world around us.
Strategy as war, the battle for market share.
Okay, let's start by unpacking this idea of strategy as war. When we talk about this, the name that immediately comes to mind, for many, and rightly so, is Michael Porter.
The giant.
He really is a titan in the field. And his work laid out frameworks that treat entire industries as, well, battlegrounds. His philosophy is all about competition, about companies building strong, almost impenetrable defenses, and about knowing precisely when and how to launch effective attacks against rivals. It's a very direct, very confrontational view of business.
It really is. The goal is to gain and maintain power.
Right?
And Porter's key work, competitive strategy, really zeroes in on how firms relentlessly aim to achieve what he calls continuing power in a significant market.
Continuing power, not just a quick win.
Exactly. It's about sustained dominance. A core part of his thinking, is his five forces framework. It helps you analyze an industry structure, buyer power, supplier power, threat of new entrants, substitutes, and crucially, the intensity of rivalry.
Right, understanding the battlefield.
Precisely. So you can find your most defensible position.
Right.
A key tactic here involves deeply understanding buyer needs, especially for custom or differentiated products. Because when a buyer wants something specifically tailored, they're often willing to pay a premium. And this isn't just about satisfying a need, it's about creating lock-in.
Lock-in. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's where the cost or the sheer effort for a buyer to switch to another supplier becomes so high, they're effectively tied to you. Think about a company like Illinois Tool Works, ITW. They custom design fasteners for specific customer needs.
So not just off-the-shelf screws.
Not at all. These fasteners are deeply integrated into a customer's unique systems, their manufacturing processes. This dramatically increases those switching costs. You can't just swap them out easily.
I see. That builds immense loyalty.
Exactly. And crucially for ITW, ensures high profit margins. It's all about establishing an unassailable position through that deep integration. It's a powerful defensive move.
That idea of lock-in is definitely a strong defense. But sometimes this war metaphor gets incredibly explicit, doesn't it? Even crossing legal lines in the pursuit of dominance.
Oh, absolutely.
We see this in that infamous case of General Electric's price-fixing scandal. Business Adventures details it so vividly. Here's GE, a company publicly making these encomiums to the free competitive system, as the book puts it.
Right. Praising competition in public.
While getting caught red-handed, colluding with competitors. Westinghouse, Allis-Chalmers, others too. They met in secret, didn't they? Hotel rooms, remote cabins.
Yeah, explicitly agreeing to control prices and allocate market share for huge things like turbines and transformers, heavy electrical equipment.
It's amazing. They weren't just competing, they were actively trying to kill competition.
And GE was the biggest fish caught in that net. They faced massive fines, what was it, $437,500, which was an enormous sum back in the early 60s.
And executives actually went to jail. Briefly, but still. Jail time for price fixing.
It's a shocking example, really, of how far some companies, some leaders, will go to eliminate market uncertainty and enforce a dominant position rather than, truly innovating or competing fairly.
It really underscores the intense, often brutal nature of competition in that red ocean, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a stark illustration of using aggressive and ultimately illegal tactics. The public statements about free competition were just a facade, weren't they? Covering up a deep-seated warrior mentality focused purely on control and market share.
Weed at all costs.
Pretty much. This wasn't about creating new value. It was about making sure nobody else could threaten their established order.
And beyond outright price fixing, there's the cutthroat world of market manipulation. Maybe subtler, but just as aggressive in its own way.
Right.
Think of Clarence Saunders and his Piggly Wiggly cornering operation, again from Business Adventures. Saunders was this brilliant but maybe eccentric grocery pioneer.
Definitely eccentric.
He tried to gain control of enough Piggly Wiggly stock to squeeze the short sellers, people betting against his company. He thought they were unfairly attacking his business, so he basically declared financial war on them.
How did he do that?
He famously bought up almost the entire available float of Piggly Wiggly stock on the exchange, drove the price way up. The idea was to force the shorts to buy back shares from him at these exorbitant prices to cover their positions.
Wow, an incredibly aggressive financial move. A huge gamble.
Totally. But then the New York Stock Exchange changed its rules mid-game, gave the shorts more time, and the whole operation eventually collapsed. Saunders couldn't sustain it, ran out of funds.
So it backfired.
Massively. He was left holding a mountain of debt. He actually started selling off company stores to try and cover it, which, of course, created immense suspicion about the company's actual financial health. All in this desperate attempt to maintain control and punish his enemies.
That's fascinating, almost theatrical. Leveraging financial markets like that, even if it meant, as the book says, partly liquidating the company afterward.
Yeah.
It's a high-stakes, almost Machiavellian approach, isn't it? It reflects a mindset focused entirely on winning by any means necessary against perceived enemies, in this case, the short sellers.
It shows a willingness to take extreme measures, even risking the company itself.
Definitely. It's not just about winning the immediate battle, but about sending a message. Don't mess with my turf.
So, okay, those are maybe on the extreme end of the war spectrum. A more conventional and, importantly, legal war strategy involves building really robust defenses around your business, making it incredibly difficult for competitors to attack.
Right, the fortress approach.
Exactly.
Wow.
Mercado Libre, for example, we hear about them in blitzscaling. They really understood the power of platform ownership. They weren't just building an e-commerce site. They were building an entire ecosystem.
How so?
Well, by developing Mercado Pago, their own payment system, that created significant barriers to potential competition.
Ah, so rivals couldn't just offer better prices. They had to overcome the hurdle of an established, trusted payment system integrated right into the experience.
Precisely. It's like building that impenetrable fortress around your kingdom. Makes it unattractive and costly for invaders to even try breaching the walls.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a classic competitive move, designed not just for growth, but to sustain that growth and protect their market long term. Well, they didn't stop there, did they?
No, they also leveraged a crucial non-compete agreement with eBay.
Right. The deal where they took over eBay's Brazilian operation in exchange for giving eBay a stake in Mercado Libre.
Yeah, it shows how strategic alliances can effectively carve out protected market territory. It allowed them to focus on strengthening their own position, investing in their platform, rather than constantly fighting off attacks from a global giant like eBay.
It's about securing the ground so you can build on it without distraction. All these moves are about establishing and reinforcing a dominant position, a clear strategy for victory in a competitive landscape.
You know, perhaps no one embodies this relentless warrior mindset quite like John D. Rockefeller. Ron Chernow's biography, Titan, paints such a vivid picture.
An iconic figure in this context.
Absolutely. Max Weber, the sociologist, even noted how Rockefeller's ascetic Protestant ethic, his extreme thrift, self-denial, methodical work, constant reinvestment, made him a matchless breeding ground for would-be businessmen.
It fueled his drive, didn't it?
Hugely. He wasn't just seeking profit for personal gain. He sought prosperity as a sign of future salvation, almost like a divine blessing on his hard work. This gave his commercial conquests an intensity few could match.
Which raises that important question, doesn't it? Can the pursuit of wealth, even if seen as a calling, as Weber suggests, justify extremely aggressive tactics?
That's the core issue. Rockefeller's Standard Oil was famously charged by the federal government with monopolizing the oil industry, using a whole range of ruthless tactics.
Like what specifically?
Well, demanding secret railroad rebates not just for his oil, but for all oil shipped, including his competitors. That gave him an unbeatable cost advantage right there. He used predatory pricing, driving prices down below cost, to financially cripple smaller rivals, then buying them up cheap, industrial espionage to find weaknesses, and even secret ownership of ostensible competitors to create this illusion of competition while he was secretly pulling the strings.
Just consolidating power relentlessly.
Completely. Standard Oil became 20 times the size of its nearest rival. He essentially built a private empire. And Chernow notes his inability to regret these anti-competitive practices. He often saw them as just rationalizing a chaotic industry.
That suggests a deeply ingrained war mentality, doesn't it? The end justifies the means. Competition is just inefficiency to be stamped out.
Exactly, not something to coexist with.
And even within organizations, these war dynamics can play out, sometimes with really devastating consequences.
Right. The book Extreme Ownership by those former Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, uses military analogies like winning the war within and laws of combat. They stress leadership, accountability, disciplined execution to achieve mission success against an external enemy.
So unifying the team.
Yes. But then you see the dark side, the destructive side of internal warfare in the case of Enron. Jeff Skilling's infamous rank and yank performance review system. Angela Duckworth discusses it in Grit.
Ah, the PRC Performance Review Committee. Brutal.
Brutal is the word. It fostered a deeply narcissistic culture. It forced managers to continually rank their employees, and a fixed percentage at the bottom got fired every 6 months, regardless of how the company or even their division was doing overall.
So it intensely rewarded deception and discouraged integrity.
Because your success often came directly at someone else's expense. Instead of collaboration, you got an internal war. People hoarding information, maybe even sabotaging peers, prioritizing short-term, sometimes fabricated, wins just to avoid being in that bottom group.
And that internal war ultimately contributed to the company's spectacular downfall, didn't it? That highlights a critical distinction, I think. External competition can be healthy, a driver, but internal warfare, that can be deeply destructive. Skilling's system prioritized short-term performance and individual gain over long-term learning and growth, over collective achievement. It created a deeply dysfunctional red ocean inside the company.
Right.
The smartest guys in the room explains that Enron's collapse stemmed from a lack of confidence of its trading partners. That was a direct consequence of that toxic internal environment. If your employees are busy fighting each other, they're not focused on the external market or building trust.
It was like a self-inflicted wound.
Exactly. Born from a totally misguided competitive approach applied internally.
Strategy as creation. The blue ocean vision.
Okay, now let's shift gears completely. Like moving from that bloody battlefield to a vast, open, unexplored ocean. We're talking about strategy as creation, which is really the heart of the blue ocean philosophy.
A totally different mindset.
Here, the goal isn't to fight in those crowded, bloody red ocean markets where everyone's battling for a slightly bigger piece of the existing pie. Instead, it's about escaping them entirely, rendering competition irrelevant by fundamentally changing the game, creating an entirely new market space.
That's precisely right. What's profoundly insightful here is the core idea of value innovation. That's the term they use in blue ocean strategy.
Value innovation, what does that mean exactly?
Well, it isn't just about making incremental improvements. It's about creating a leap in value for buyers. Something so significant that it makes the existing competition just irrelevant. And crucially, it's not necessarily about technology innovation per se. Tech can be part of it, sure.
It doesn't have to be.
No. It's about linking technology, or any element, to a completely new kind of value. The authors point to examples like comic relief or yellowtail wine. They created huge blue oceans without relying on brand new bleeding-edge tech.
How do they do that?
Well, comic relief transformed charity, right? Made giving mass market fun, engaging through celebrities, humor. Shifted from stuffy galas to this nationwide event people wanted to be part of. Yellowtail wine, they stripped away all the intimidating jargon and complexity around wine.
Made it less scary for newbies.
Exactly. Focused on fruity, easy-drinking, approachable wines. Simple, eye-catching label. Attracted a mass audience new to wine. Even when tech is heavily involved, like with Salesforce or Quicken or the iPhone, the reason buyers love them is because they deliver simplicity, ease of use, fun, and productivity. The tech kind of disappears into the background. The focus is on the value.
So it's the unique value proposition that opens the new market.
That's the key. They often achieve this using what Blue Ocean Strategy calls the 4 actions framework. Eliminate factors the industry takes for granted, reduce factors well below the industry standard, raise factors well above, and create factors the industry has never offered. It's about systematically changing the value curve.
That distinction between technology and value is so important. A perfect example of this creative approach, focusing on unmet needs and experience, has to be Starbucks, right? Howard Schultz talks about it in Pour Your Heart Into It.
Classic example.
He didn't just set out to sell coffee beans. He went to Milan and he saw something profound. An unexpressed demand for romance and community in the city's piazzas. He called the coffee drinking experience there a symphony.
More than just a caffeine hit.
Much more, a vibrant social ritual. He brought that feeling, that unique ritual, back to Seattle, aiming to create a distinctive third-place experience, not home, not work, where people could connect, unwind, find a sense of belonging. He wasn't trying to beat diners on price or speed. He was creating a whole new category of experience.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, Starbucks really did create an entirely new category, not just a product. They fashioned a brand in a way no business school textbook could ever have prescribed.
Yeah.
Largely because they didn't follow conventional marketing. Instead of blasting consumers with ads first, they built the brand first with our people, not with consumers. They made their employees their best ambassadors.
Invested internally first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By investing in their employees' training, benefits, culture, they created this passionate workforce that naturally generated incredible buzz among customers, that inspired loyalty, brand distinctiveness. It shows the power of creating that emotional connection, that unique atmosphere. It transcends the commodity product. They knew coffee was the product, but the experience was the blue ocean.
Okay, another huge one. Jeff Bezos' vision for Amazon, the Everything Store by Brad Stone, really captures this. He didn't just want an online bookstore.
No, the ambition was huge from the start.
Right. From the very beginning, he envisioned a true everything store with unlimited selection. He started with books because, well, they were a logical product for early e-commerce. Easy to ship, standardized.
Right.
But he recognized that nobody had really figured out how to do a good job selling books over the internet. He saw this massive, untapped opportunity. He wasn't trying to beat Borders or Barnes& and Noble at their own game in physical stores. He was building a whole new kind of retail. Leveraging the internet for convenience and selection, nobody could match offline.
Which raises that important question. How do you actually build a new market like that from scratch, especially one so ambitious?
Yeah.
Amazon's early innovation, the Associates Program, is just a brilliant example of creating an ecosystem, not just a product.
Explain the Associates Program.
It allowed other websites, could be small blogs, could be large portals, to earn a commission just for referring customers to Amazon who then bought something.
Ah, affiliate marketing.
Exactly. It effectively spawned a multi-billion-dollar-a-year industry called affiliate marketing. It was a key driver of Amazon's early growth. This was systemic creation of a new distribution model, not just competing on price or product in the existing book market.
So different from the traditional retail mindset.
Totally. And it's telling that seasoned Walmart executives who were deeply rooted in that war mindset of physical retail dominance initially dismissed Amazon. They reportedly saw it as having limited potential, thinking its model would eventually hit a wall.
They couldn't see it.
They couldn't conceive of a retail experience outside their physical footprint. They just couldn't see the blue ocean forming. They were blinded by their existing competitive frameworks, the battles they were used to fighting.
Okay, here's where it gets maybe even more transformative. Apple. Especially after Steve Jobs came back. That period is perhaps the clearest, most audacious case study in strategy as creation.
Absolutely legendary run.
Scott Galloway in The Four calls it the greatest run of innovation in business history. Just earth-shaking, $100 billion, category-creating new product or service after another.
Think about them.
Right. The iPod didn't just play music, it redefined portable music. iTunes and the App Store didn't just sell media, they created entirely new digital marketplaces and consumption models.
Changed everything.
The iPhone, it didn't just combine a phone and an MP3 player, it basically created the modern smartphone as we know it. Fundamentally changed how we interact with tech with each other. And then the iPad, creating the tablet category.
These weren't just better versions of existing things. They defined entirely new categories, new ecosystems.
It wasn't just product iteration, it was market transformation on a grand scale. Apple made its competitors sat watching news feeds, hearts and throats in terror of what would hit them next.
Because they weren't just competing, they were creating the future, weren't they?
Yeah. And they also masterfully used this creative surge to strategically lock in the customer to their ecosystem, making MobileMe free, which became iCloud.
Right. Integrating devices, software, services seamlessly. Created strong switching costs, deepened loyalty.
And Walter Isaacson's biography, Steve Jobs, touches on the innovator's dilemma, how people who invent something are usually the last ones to see past it. Apple, under Jobs, constantly had to embody internal creation to avoid becoming a victim of its own success, always looking for the next blue ocean, even when their current one was thriving.
That internal drive to create the next thing was key.
Okay, shifting to something more current. The rise of fintech. That's another powerful contemporary example of strategy as creation, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. The technological revolution in financial services explained how fintech startups are fundamentally reconsidering entire business processes and introducing new business models.
They're not just digitizing old banking processes.
No, not at all. They're acting as the R&D function of financial services in the digital world, completely reimagining how money moves, how we borrow, save, invest, breaking down old silos, building entirely new pathways for financial interaction.
So where did they find the opening?
Well, the movement really thrives on taking advantage of existing inefficiencies and disrupting the status quo. While the big incumbent banks were often distracted, maybe by complex regulations after the financial crisis.
Right, focused elsewhere.
Fintech saw an opportunity, driven largely by millennials' behavior that demand for seamless, mobile-first, personalized services. They seized the chance to create new solutions.
Like what?
Peer-to-peer payments, challenger banks, innovative mortgage platforms, robo-advisors. They've effectively created entirely new market spaces within this old established industry. They saw customer frustrations, and instead of trying to outcompete the big banks head-on, they offered novel, digitally native solutions, reframed what financial services could even be.
It's a prime example of a fresh perspective unlocking huge value.
Exactly. In an industry ripe for creation.
And building on this idea of new value, new markets, Seth Godin in Purple Cow famously advocates for putting a purple cow into everything you build.
Love that analogy.
He urges companies to stop advertising and start innovating. The goal isn't to be slightly better, it's to be truly remarkable, to stand out in a sea of sameness, to be so profoundly different that you become unforgettable. A true purple cow in a field of ordinary brown ones.
It's a powerful idea, and it raises that important question. How do you actually achieve this remarkable quality consistently? How do you become truly unique?
Right. How do you find the purple cow?
Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman and Chris Cree
Yeah.
emphasizes being contrarian and right, pursuing opportunities that conventional wisdom ignores or disdains.
Contrarian and right, that's the tricky part.
It is. Think about it. Amazon pursued e-commerce when people were scared of using credit cards online and physical bookstores seemed unassailable. Google launched its search engine when most thought search was a solved problem, dominated by portals. Facebook built its social network when MySpace was the giant.
They all went against the grain.
Exactly. All these companies gained a huge advantage and a crucial head start on achieving scale by identifying and developing these newly defined markets before most competitors even realized they existed or saw their potential. It's easy to be contrarian and wrong, and it's often painful to be contrarian and right because you get dismissed at first.
Yeah, people think you're crazy.
But it's that conviction, that willingness to challenge the prevailing wisdom, that's really a hallmark of true blue ocean creation.
Intersections, challenges, and nuances.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because the choice between war and creation isn't always so clear-cut. And sometimes focusing too much on one can inadvertently lead to failure in the other.
Right, the lines can blur.
Clayton Christensen's seminal work, The Innovator's Dilemma, highlights this crucial pitfall, how sound decisions by great managers can lead firms to failure.
Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Good decisions leading to failure.
It does. But companies that are too focused on their existing customers, fighting the war in the red ocean for current market share, often completely miss the emergence of disruptive technologies or new market needs. They're doing everything right by their current metrics, but they're basically building a ship that's perfect for a sea that's rapidly disappearing.
That's such a profound insight, and it raises that important question about resource allocation and strategic foresight, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, consider the classic case of Seagate, leading disk drive manufacturer back in the day. In the 1980s, when smaller 3.5-inch disk drives emerged.
Right, smaller than the standard 5.25-inch ones.
Exactly. Seagate's existing desktop computer customers didn't need them. These new drives were actually worse for them initially. Less capacity, higher cost per megabyte. But they offered improved ruggedness and reduced size.
Which wasn't important for desktops.
No, but those features were massive advantages for an emerging market. Portable computers, laptops. Seagate, quite rationally, from their existing customers' perspective, initially saw no value in the improved ruggedness or the reduced size for their main business. So they put their resources into making better 5.25-inch drives, fighting the current war.
Listening to their best customers.
Precisely. But by the time they finally entered the 3.5-inch market seriously, other companies had already shipped nearly $750 million worth of products for these new markets, like portable computers. A market Seagate had effectively ignored.
Wow, $750 million they missed out on initially.
Yeah. It wasn't a failure of competence. It was a failure to create for future emergent needs. They were blinded by their existing competitive landscape. They won the war for their current customers, but for a critical time, lost the battle for the future.
So, given that trap, is it always one or the other, war or creation? Or can a company blend these approaches, fight where necessary, create where possible?
That seems more realistic, doesn't it?
The Red Ocean Traps, excerpts from Blue Ocean Strategy, actually acknowledges this. It says traditional competitive strategies like customer focus and technology innovation are not wrong or bad. They serve important purposes.
Right. They're essential for improving existing offerings, competing effectively within established markets. You can't just abandon defense entirely.
So it suggests a more nuanced reality where both can and maybe must coexist.
Well, what's fascinating here is that even successful blue ocean strategies eventually face imitation. Competition always arrives eventually. No blue ocean stays blue forever. Others will try to follow you into that profitable space.
So the creation phase doesn't last.
Not indefinitely. The goal, then, is to create such a massive leap in value that it builds natural, powerful barriers against these future rivals, protecting your newly created market.
How do you build those barriers?
Things like powerful brand buzz and intense customer loyalty, making you the default choice. Significant economies of scale, think Walmart's purchasing power, making it hard for others to match prices. Or strong network externalities, where the service gets more valuable as more people use it, like Twitter or Facebook.
So you create the new market.
And then you quickly build defenses. You're essentially blending creation with elements of war. Create the market, establish dominance, and then protect it fiercely. Ensure that by the time the red sharks arrive, you're already in a much stronger, more defensible position.
That makes sense. It's a dynamic interplay. Now, we talked about destructive internal warfare earlier, like at Enron.
Right, the toxic culture.
But Stephen Covey, in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, argues really powerfully against that kind of internal competitive mindset when cooperation is actually needed for broader success. Yeah. He tells this story about a company president who preached cooperation and teamwork in his speeches, but then incentivized fierce competition among his managers with a highly visible racehorses chart. It showed everyone's individual performance rankings.
Oh, dear. Mixed messages.
Totally. It created a flawed paradigm. Managers were told to cooperate, but rewarded for beating each other. It led to internal conflict, sabotaging collective goals. He wanted the fruits of cooperation, but he was sowing seeds of internal conflict, unknowingly undermining his own objective.
That really raises an important question about organizational culture and true leadership, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Covey advocates for shifting from that I win, you lose mentality to think win-win, or even win-win or no deal. If we can't find a solution that benefits both, we agree not to proceed.
That takes maturity.
It does. Covey says it requires integrity, sticking to your values, maturity, which he defines as a balance of courage to state your needs and consideration for others' needs, and empathic listening to find synergistic third alternatives. Creative solutions that are better than what either party could have come up with alone. This is all about fostering internal creation of solutions and shared value, rather than a zero-sum internal battle that diminishes the whole organization. It's about ensuring the internal dynamics support, not undermine, the overall strategy, so the company can present a united front externally, whether that involves fighting or creating.
Okay, so whether you're fighting a war or trying to create a new world, anticipating change seems absolutely key. That's strategic foresight. Seeing what's coming, even when your current business is absolutely thriving.
Paramount. Absolutely paramount.
Netflix is a great example, right?
Yeah.
Even with a hugely successful DVD by mail business.
Which was revolutionary in itself at the time.
True. But they could clearly see the digital future rising over the horizon, driven by Moore's law making computing power cheaper and increasing internet bandwidth, making streaming actually viable. 7 Powers notes this foresight.
They didn't wait to be disrupted.
No, they had the foresight to prepare for that massive shift to streaming, even while their DVD business was generating enormous profits. They were willing to disrupt themselves, which is incredibly hard.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is how successful firms adapt, sometimes completely transforming their core business. Think about Rockefeller's Standard Oil again.
We've talked about his warrior tactics.
Right, but he also demonstrated incredible foresight and adaptability. The Protestant ethic describes how Standard Oil recognized the fantastic market in the offing with the advent of the automobile.
The shift from kerosene lamps to cars needing gasoline.
Exactly. Their primary product, kerosene for lamps, was becoming obsolete, but they quickly pivoted, shifted their focus, their refining capabilities from kerosene to gasoline. They adapted to a new creation in the market, the automobile, even though they hadn't initiated that creation themselves.
So they jumped on the new wave.
Precisely. This constant need to pivot and try another approach is crucial. Clayton Christensen, in How Will You Measure Your Life, suggests that a staggering 93% of successful companies end up abandoning their original strategy.
93%, that's huge.
It is. True wisdom lies not just in executing a single strategy flawlessly, but in this ongoing adaptation, this willingness to redefine your own game, to constantly look for the next wave, whether it means fighting for a new position or creating an entirely new one.
Outro. So we've really explored 2 powerful poles of strategy today. Strategy as a battle for market share, drawing on competitive frameworks with examples of direct confrontation, aggressive tactics, building those barriers.
The Red Ocean fight.
And we've seen strategy as a boundless act of creation, forging entirely new market spaces, defining new value, making rivals for a time obsolete through groundbreaking innovation that just changes the game itself.
The Blue Ocean vision.
It's a profound choice at the heart of every enterprise, isn't it? And often, as we saw, The most successful companies somehow manage to weave elements of both into the strategic fabric over time.
Absolutely. Ultimately, for you, the listener, the key is recognizing the context. While competitive defense remains absolutely essential and mature, established industries, you have to protect what you have, fight for existing
A
customers.
red ocean battles are real.
They are. But the most transformative and enduring successes often come from having the courage to look beyond those existing battlegrounds. It's about discerning when to fight fiercely in a red ocean, optimizing, defending, and when to navigate towards a blue one, creating what doesn't yet exist, and expanding the entire landscape of opportunity.
So it's not really neither, is it?
Rarely. It's more about a dynamic interplay. It requires astute judgment, foresight, and that willingness to constantly reevaluate where you are and where the opportunities truly lie.
So here's something to think about. Is the truest form of power not in simply dominating what already exists, but perhaps in bringing something entirely new into existence?
Something so compelling, so valuable, that it fundamentally reshapes the entire landscape, rendering the old battles, at least for a time, utterly meaningless. What will you choose to fight for or to create?